Well, thank you for having me here. Thank you very much for the kind introduction, Francois. Sometimes I just hope that they would cut down the biography a little bit, because I'm actually going to be talking about quite a bit of that today. I want to thank you for participating in this retreat. Who here wakes up every morning excited to show up at the Alberta Children's Hospital Research Institute? You guys are life changers, right? So I was so honored to be here when I was asked by Dr. Susan Benzler, one of the many people here at ACHRI, with a set of job titles requiring you to scroll through the documents to see them all. But I've had a lot of time. I've been privileged with the opportunity to work at the Alberta Children's Hospital here in town, both inside the hospital and outside of it. I know the mission of the Alberta Children's Hospital. I like to think I have continually championed the values of revolutionizing treatment, being at the right place at the right time for these kids, and creating healing environments. I was introduced to the Alberta Children's Hospital by the Calgary Stampeders. I played, of course, that 9-year career that Francois was talking about, and I'm in the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. But honestly, to this day, that time in the Children's Hospital has resonated with me. I started going there before games, the day before, to hang out with the kids. We would sometimes go to the art room or just do whatever. But I recognized I derived a lot of value from that time, and I had a lot of fun there. So I decided to do more. I signed up as a full official volunteer at the Children's Hospital, and I had the opportunity to do what I do best, to push around a video game cart and play video games with the kids. And to this day, those are some of the best memories I have. So today's conversation is going to be followed by a Q&A, but it's really all about what you can do with your time, what the investment of your effort and your skill can return in terms of dividends in the future. Francois said, yes, I think about things in terms of investment, so I want you to think about what your time means to these kids in the future. As it stands, I've volunteered around 400 hours for the Alberta Children's Hospital and its foundation. Thank you. Outside the hospital, I worked closely with Seifa Kunar, CEO of the Children's Hospital Foundation, and her team. And inside, I worked with Lauren Freno and his team of volunteers. I spent about 150 hours all told inside the hospital. But outside, I was hosting events, emceeing, doing raffles, even serving ice cream. I actually worked at a Dairy Queen for the day, handing out ice cream to all the people that participated. And it caught a few people off guard. It's like, why are you serving me ice cream? But we raised so much money for the kids. I think in total about the events I participated in, maybe $1 million or more. But this went towards your work that is so important. But I make the same choice that you make every single day. You told me you were really excited to show up to work. Are you still excited to show up to work? I would call that somewhat excited. But my decision to invest my time in these kids gave me the opportunity as chancellor to speak to you. I'm volunteering here. Generally, if somebody asks me to do a 45-minute speech to someone, I'm getting paid for that. But I'm here as a volunteer because somehow the Children's Hospital still has its hooks in me. So let's talk about my journey and some of the learnings I've had to illustrate why that time that you're spending doing this great work will pay dividends in the future. As an investment advisor with RBC Dominion Securities and a chartered financial analyst charter holder, I work hard to help people realize their future goals, how their investments work, and the role that dividends play. I help people see what's possible when it comes to goal setting. I've always had the opportunity to set goals because sports were really good for that, right? Like Francois mentioned, I set a few records down at the University of Kansas, and that led to the creation of the Jon Cornish Trophy, a trophy which was actually just handed out the other day, which always sees Canadians competing to get their name on this trophy. It's weird. Generally, trophies are named after dead guys. But it was at my time at the University of Kansas where I learned one of the most important values to me. And I learned this because I was able to form a relationship with the late Bob Hemingway, who was the chancellor of the University of Kansas when I was there. He told me, life is not about what you do for yourself. Rather, it's about what you can do for others. And this is something that's always resonated with me. As a young student, having this chance to get advice from the chancellor, the head of the university, who I only had the opportunity to meet because I was a little bit good at football. This was incredibly awesome. And now, today, I get to pay that mentorship forward with our chancellor scholars here. But I'll admit, it did plant a seed of an idea that I might be chancellor someday. I took that idea and put it on a shelf and never thought about it again until a few months ago. I got put on a list that was cut down, and that list was shortened until I got a phone call telling me that I would be interviewing for the role of Chancellor of the University of Calgary. But it was Bob Hemingway's idea that got me on that list because I decided to invest in our community here in Calgary. Between my time at the Children's Hospital, Calgary Foundation, Woods Homes, the Calgary Opera, the Alberta Ballet. Yes, I've been on stage in the ballet. I've delivered a line in the Calgary Opera, "Let the party begin!" and other various organizations. I've become a person known for giving back to the community. But that did take a lot of time. And so when my wife, Kieran, as much as she loves volunteering, she wanted to be a little bit more specific with our efforts. And that focus was how the Calgary Black Chambers was formed, relying on the knowledge I'd gained at the Calgary Foundation about granting, to how to inspire young people through my work at Woods Homes and the Children's Hospital, through how to present, be present with the Calgary Opera and the ballet, and the numerous opportunities the Alberta Children's Hospital gave me. I was able to put 55 people together in a room. And we were at the Petroleum Club. It was the first time they've ever had that many black people in the room. There was a few people that came up the stairs and, what's going on here, folks? I don't want any trouble. But we all got to share stories of what it was to be a person of color, a BIPOC person in Calgary. That group is what became the Calgary Black Chambers. And the Calgary Black Chambers has 4 key values: scholarship, advocacy, mentorship, and fellowship. Scholarship because while nearly 100% of black students believe they can finish university, only about 50% have the financial means to do so. And I'll touch on this scholarship piece because this last convocation, we had 3 students cross the stage that had received Calgary Black Chambers support. Applause. Yep. Yeah, you're a crowd that listens. I appreciate that. And advocacy, while there is black employment in the city, if you take a black person and someone else doing the same job, the black person will be paid $20,000 less. Mentorship, because childhood poverty among black people in Calgary is 3 times the rate for everybody else. Young black students needed a leg up. And finally, through fellowship, we tighten the knit of the community, strengthening our ability to act on the other 3 values. Calgary Black Chambers is well on its way too. As was mentioned, 60,000 has been distributed to students already. There's been 300,000 raised, and I take great pride in this. Because last year, my wife and I, with those 300 students from the Catholic School Board, spent our Tuesday evenings 2 classes, 50 kids apiece, sort of 3 weeks for class, put our students through a soft skills course. So I fancy myself an educator as well. In this course, students learn about networking, ethical thinking, problem solving, branding, communication, and among other things. But the students that entered this course were quiet, maybe lacking a little bit of confidence. But over the course of the semester, they became their adults, able to express their ideas and elaborate on who they were as people. I'm very proud of this. For this work, the Calgary Black Chambers recently received the Alberta School Board Association's Friends of Education honor, the ASBA's highest honor for people outside of education. Yeah, there we go. See, I didn't need to say anything that time. But that's what's possible when you give your time back. Who here has volunteered in the community in the last year? Those without your hands up, stand up and pay account to your community. No, I'm joking. I'll tell you this, that I became chancellor of the University of Calgary because I decided to give back. And I'm not getting paid for this today, like I mentioned. The truth is, I became a paid speaker because of the Alberta Children's Hospital. Liz Ballandine, Alberta Children's Hospital Foundation Vice President, Fund Development, Community Initiatives, and Events, decided to give me a chance as a newly retired football player without knowing about really what football was, because Liz thinks football is the one with the round ball. It was a children's hospital that opened this opportunity up to me now. We can talk about dividends from investing in youth, but I like to think of myself being on the stage as the embodiment of the idea. I had opportunity after opportunity because I decided to help out the Children's Hospital, and they gave me the opportunity to do so. I had speaking, MCs, and that turned into other events with other people, and then I started getting paid to do it. From a, sure, you can host stuff for us, to chancellor of the university, now a keynote speaker for this event, and Liz's boss, technically. At least in my eyes, this is an extremely strong return on investment. But when it all comes down to it, the volunteering, it started at the Children's Hospital because I realized how much your time is worth. That's why you're all here today. Because you want to be the best you can be, doing research and helping these kids get better. And no one's saying what you're doing is easy. Between political forces, pandemics, pandemia, and a whole set of unprecedented crises, we find ourselves living in uncertain times. The old days, like doing normal shifts, feeling like things will be better in the future, the idea that we're all in this together. Truth is, things may be harder than ever. I don't know about you, but it certainly feels like things have changed. But one thing I know will always be true, in the words of the late Bob Hemingway, it's not about how much you help yourself, but how much you can help others. I learned the best way to feel good is to focus on helping others. We have an outstanding research institute here. I hear some costs, but I don't hear celebration. I don't hear the excitement about how great this place is. We have tremendous support here from the community. We have some of the best doctors and researchers in the world, and we're here for a common reason, to make these kids better. Because when you invest in a young person, it is the highest possible return on that investment. A better future, a reason for existing. I haven't mentioned football. So let's talk about football a little bit. Who knows what a running back is? Let's see some. Okay, so let's define what a running back is. The running back mostly gets given the ball. So the ball is handed to him, called a handoff, and the running back tries to run upfield while potentially getting tackled. So very quickly I realized that I was always going to be tackled. Every time I touched the ball, I was going to go down. I will be stopped. But did that ever stop me? No. That was okay. I'm going to count down for you so you can say no for me. 3, 2, 1. No. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's right. I said no to giving up. I got tackled, and I got back up, and I got the ball again and got more yards. Or I blocked so somebody else could get some yards. Or I came off the field so another player could show their game, to show off their skills. You do what you got to do. And sometimes you got to take one for the team. Or as I like to say, running for the love of the game. And it doesn't always go well. 2012. I had a game where I had a total of -1 yard. Yeah, it hurt. More on the inside than the outside. Who here has felt like they went backwards? Right? We've all had that feeling. I literally went backwards. But I understood, I got knocked down, but the coaches understood that too. The reporters, not so much. They called me garbage. But did I let that affect me? I trusted my coaches. I trusted the process. And yeah, there probably was a weak link in the blockers in front of me. The coaches addressed it. And the following week, I had 170 yards positive. Yep. I appreciate the applause, but there's going to be more right here, right? That year, I ended up leading the league in rushing, setting the record for most yards by a Canadian running back ever, and was the runner-up for the Most Outstanding Player Award. But we went to the Grey Cup and lost. So, in some perspectives, it was a good year. Other perspectives, it wasn't. Things good and bad happen. But how do you respond to these events when they're negative? What level of resilience do you have when things aren't going well? How will you respond when you go backwards? When you have your -1 yard game? Certainly recognize that life is not all positive. I've worked with many patients at the Children's Hospital, some of whom didn't get the chance to continue their journeys. It's tough for their families, for the doctors, the researchers, and the nurses involved. Who here has lost a patient? For all the people they knew, but it was tough. Despite that, I knew one thing. The kids just wanted an opportunity to be a kid. And that's what you all provide. An opportunity to be a kid for 1 day longer, 1 month longer, and hopefully much longer than that. When we talk about these investments in kids, realize it's with everyone you work with. A smile, a kind remark, a small gesture. These things might be tiny, but they add up, and they might help someone else feel a little bit better and help that person make somebody else feel better, especially a patient. People don't realize the world works on these kind gestures. It's easy to see disrespect. It's easy to see a lot of negatives in the world. But it's important to know that every person in this room can be a beacon of light for somebody else. A patient, your family, a coworker, a random person on the street. You all have far more power to change the world for the positive. With this said, I frequently get asked what my favorite part of playing video games with kids was at the Children's Hospital. It was winning. People don't realize that when I say kids want to be kids, they want to be challenged. And often the question asker would look at me with disbelief when I told them I didn't just let the sick kids, beat me at video games. These kids knew they were sick. They potentially knew it was life-threatening. But that never stopped them from being a kid. I'll admit I'm classically trained on Nintendo, PC, Xbox, PC, all the way up. So maybe I beat the kid. Sometimes let him win. I did genuinely get challenged by many. But I learned from the kids as well. I knew about Minecraft and played Minecraft, but I never knew about mods, add-ons created by users that add to the game. So there was one day I spent 2 hours hanging out with one of the older patients while he played modded Minecraft. It was a fine afternoon and a brilliant use of my time. I learned just as much from these kids as they did from me, probably far more. A simple investment of my time paid a dividend I will cherish till my last breath. Like I said, life is not always easy. I know from my time with the Calgary Black Chambers, putting 1,200 hours between building a website, building the course materials, I built my own course curriculum, creating presentations for fundraising, going out, networking, talking to this person and that. It adds up. And I was doing all this on top of having a job. There's a lot. It's probably too much. Of course, then I became chancellor. You all have your various duties and requirements. More often than not, additional duties. Only recently have I learned of the idea of secondment, doing someone else's job, often on top of your current one. We all have our surprises, our struggles, and issues. So how do you respond? The most important thing of doing what you do has to be for the right reason. I studied religion as a hobby in college, and I studied the values of each major religion, but something about Buddhism stuck with me. I'll preface before I go on. My mom, Margaret Cornish, a Queen's Diamond Jubilee Medal recipient and now retired Anglican priest, said that utilizing Buddhist ideas won't send you to hell, so don't worry about that. But when you look at Buddhism, they reference utilizing right motivation, being motivated by the general absence of greed, craving, and desire, but rather motivated by generous giving. Seems straightforward enough to build a life around. Well, looking a little bit further at Buddhism, talking about the 4 immeasurables. Now, these are just very simple ideas you've come across before. But I've internalized this valuable tool set for dealing with uncertainty. So you'll probably derive some value as I mention them, and you'll think about it, and maybe you'll think about it in the future and derive some more value. 4 simple words: compassion, joy, equanimity, and loving kindness. Loving kindness, 2 words, so 5 words. Like I said, immeasurables. But I utilize them to generate my potential every day. And they're just words to ponder. Was I compassionate enough with this patient? Did I care enough? Did I show enough love? And was I even-keeled enough? Simple things. Let's talk about them. I have compassion for all people because we don't know where people came from and what they've gone through. It's most tougher than ever for healthcare workers to go about their day-to-day activities. You don't know if a person will refuse vaccination, which could help with their life-threatening illness. You don't know if you'll get yelled at for a scientifically proven method of doing things that just happens to not line up with parents' or politicians' thoughts on science. When you encounter these issues, it's important to understand that we're all human. But at the end of the day, we need to be compassionate to everyone. But that starts with ourselves. We can talk about child health and wellness all day. But if our researchers and caregivers aren't healthy and well, we won't be able to help others attain health and wellness. I still have days where I book nothing No friends, clients, no prospects, no university, nothing. I don't have kids, but let me tell you, having a day to reset is transcendent. You start to understand that the assignment to life is about more than just needing to do something. So tell your kids, if you have them, go play video games or watch YouTube all day. They get the whole day. I got to do that frequently as a kid. And now I'm the youngest chancellor in Canadian history, so it can't be all that bad. Being passionate externally requires us to understand our own shortcomings, our own limitations. We are all people. Patients, people. Parents, people. Students, people. Chancellors, people. I find spaces and places where I can be joyful, even when things aren't going well. Sometimes you have to force yourself to smile, but that actually works. Science! Earlier today, we heard about the impacts of walking for kids who cannot walk. Can you imagine? Can you imagine how life-changing it would be for a kid to be able to walk again, or for the first time? A most joyous occasion, to be sure. But life is not all about one momentous breakthrough. We all work so hard, anticipating that someday we'll find joy, someday, somehow. But the truth is, we should be seeking to have fun and joy in everything we do. Part of the fun of life is finding fun ways to do things, being your best, your most authentic self. Dr. Bukula Salami, Edmonton Top 40 Under 40, and I'm honored to say fellow Top 40 Under 40 recipient who will be present tomorrow, has found positive relationships, a sense of community, and some level of spirituality contribute to positive Black youth mental health outcomes. But it's easy to see this is probably true for everybody. We all need support networks and some kind of internal value set to withstand the negative elements in our lives. It's easier to be compassionate when you're joyful because you'll attract people around you that'll make it that much easier to go through the day. Sharing your kindness with the world provides another layer of resilience to external factors. It doesn't cost you anything to be nice. In fact, it's often worth more than the alternative. Kindness and love are very powerful forces, which you all utilize to make our city, our province, and our country healthier. I don't think anyone has ever woken up and said, I hate Calgary so much, I'm going to make it better. Like, it didn't happen. The goals of this retreat are child health and wellness, love for your work, love for your community, for your family and friends. It provides you a sanctuary to persevere in the attainment of these goals in uncertain times. Still, being equipped with compassion, joy, loving kindness, things can and will still go wrong. So we need to be okay with things not being okay. I did just read that on a sign outside, but I'm not quoting that sign. Well, we can absolutely seek to make change and make things better. The last Buddhist immeasurable is equanimity, mental calmness, composure, evenness of temper, especially in a difficult situation. I find reducing or eliminating expectations and reducing your reactions all go into this. My wife, Kieran, knows I love to celebrate all the wonderful things in life. And I'm not just talking about like partying and alcohol, but rather I have an internal state of positivity that usually hangs around 97%. And if something goes wrong, 96%. When things don't go the way I'd like, I just celebrate a little bit less. We all love to work and support the community, and things don't always work out, even when we have the best of intentions. Simply put, things aren't going to go the way you expect them to, generally. You are all scientists and doctors Who likes to create hypotheses in their lives? Things are going to go one way or another. Some people. Everything that happens in your lives is pretty much a test of your hypotheses. What I'm saying here is sometimes it's better to not have a hypothesis in the first place. The most powerful learning here was wish for the best and have no expectation about the outcome. Life is more about momentum than destination. Kids might always get sick, but as long as we're on the track to revolutionizing treatment, being there for them when they need it, and creating spaces for them to heal, we are achieving that goal. When we invest all the time, money, and effort that we currently are, no matter what, we will see a momentous return when they pay it forward in the future. The four measurables, compassion, joy, loving kindness, are here for you to ponder on as you go through your lives. Take refuge in these words. They're just words. Think about how they affect your actions. I'd ask you to do so, because this investment in you will pay dividends in your life, and others will benefit. Let's talk about football a little bit more. So I told you about my 2012 season. In my 2013 season, I broke my own record, setting the Stampeders' all-time yards from scrimmage record, and winning the most outstanding player. For those efforts, I was awarded the Marsh Trophy, now known as the Northern Star Award, as Canada's best athlete. However, we lost in the Grey Cup, or lost in the playoffs, and didn't return to the Grey Cup. So what was the problem here? Obviously, I did great. But it didn't help our team reach our goals. The following year, I changed my entire mindset. Rather than trying to be the best at running the ball, I tried to be the best at investing in and uplifting my teammates to help them improve. Because of these efforts, for the first time in my CFL career, I was selected as a team captain, and we were all set to have a great year. In 2014, it was the year of the horse, and in the very first game, I scored a touchdown early. I was hyped. Now, this is going to be another great season, probably break my record again. And then I got knocked out. I was on the field for 15 seconds. They rolled the ambulance out. I heard somebody laugh. It's not funny in the ambulance. It's not funny. I was able to get up on my own power. I walked off the field. But I was injured enough. I decided I wouldn't return to the field until I was 100%. I took that time to reconnect with who I was as a person and as a football player. Concussion protocol back in 2014 had you sit in a dark room. Of course, I think I ignored that. I went to see Transformers in 3D immediately after the injury. Bad call, but I found some positives, though. And like I said, I'm a gamer, so I found some time to game. But this also allowed me time to reflect, to better reflect my personal values of compassion, joy, loving kindness, and equanimity on the field. Yeah, I showed those guys trying to tackle me compassion. I did. You're getting paid to tackle me. I understand. I understand. But that idea of equanimity I talked about, I'm going to get tackled every time. But when you remove the expectation that anything's going to happen, I'm going to get tackled, I'm going to score a touchdown. No, I'm going to execute my process. I took it all the way back to the process, and good things happened. Suffice it to say, I became pretty resilient. Number in terms of yards per carry. So per time I was given the ball, that season was number 3 all time, 7.8 yards per carry. To put in perspective, a first down, you get 10 yards, that's a first down. So I was getting 80% of the first down every time I touched the ball. In terms of my entire career, 6.66 yards per carry. It's actually 6.66. I was a devil on the field, that's for sure. Something definitely changed, though, Empowered, I was able to lead the entire CFL in rushing, despite only playing 9 games. I won the most outstanding player in the CFL for what was, for me, a half season. In the Western Final, we play the Edmonton Eskimos, and they're doing well. They're stopping me almost every time I touch the ball. But I get a short toss from the quarterback and take it back 78 yards, scoring while breaking every player's tackle on the field. At the end of the play, though, I'm a little bit into the end zone. I get tackled. And for whatever reason, there's a large, heavy cart beside the field that I get thrown into. I end up really smashing up my knee. I can barely walk after the game. And, we're celebrating. We're going to the Grey Cup. Everybody should be hyped. And I'm sitting there realizing that I will have no impact on this game. And this isn't something, an expectation. No, I can barely move my leg. And when I get home, I understand. And that feeling fully dawns upon me that this will be a Grey Cup where I will have basically zero impact. But I can't let anybody know. Right? I get treatment. Hopefully we can get this knee as good as we can. But if the Hamilton Tiger Cats, who we're about to play, know, they'll change up their whole defense. The only people that knew were my coaches and my training staff. Everybody else kept out of it. I still practiced. And we didn't mention it to anyone. It was so important that Hamilton didn't switch up their defense. And the coaching staff knew that they would be focused on me 100%. And then in the game, as predicted, Hamilton threw everything they could at our team to stop me. But what they didn't realize was that we had a great little quarterback, Bo Levi Mitchell, who ended up being that game's MVP because he was free to do his thing. At various points in this season, there were injuries, so somebody else stepped up. And we came together as a team because we were compassionate and genuinely cared for one another. This season, to me, emphasized the fact that I mentioned earlier. Sometimes you have to take one for the team. Sometimes you have to be the person standing in the back celebrating somebody else's victory. Ultimately, though, curiously, the goal was reached. The goal being to help elevate the team as team captain to host the Grey Cup. But it didn't look anything like I expected it to. But, and it goes back to it, when you start with the right motivation, you invest your time in the right things, good things happen. And this is exactly what you all do at work. You try to elevate your community by both making it healthier and more well. When you're working to make your community better, this is amazing. But when we take these steps as a collective group together, we can achieve any goal. When we invest in our children's health and wellness, the possibilities are limitless. Being positive with the word yes opened up the possibility to join the Children's Hospital, where my wife and I still to this day are the only 2 people with the Children's Hospital outside the photographer that have official Children's Hospital name tags. I believe our joint goal of having this institution become the very best in the world is possible. Yes introduced me to the Children's Hospital. A yes from you created all the wonderful work that you've accomplished. The word no rejected negativity and allowed me to focus on what's important. But the truth is, no got focus groups and was shown to be less good than yes in terms of motivating people. Thus, we'll proclaim yes to all the dividends our positive investment in ourselves and one another will create. When I point at you, you say yes. Yes. That's a hard screamer back there. Yes to investing in a better future. Yes. Yes to saying yes louder. Yes. Okay, there we go. Yes for our patients. Yes. And yes for one another. Yes. So I'm going to ask you one more question, and you know the answer. question is, are we going to make Alberta Children's Hospital and the Research Institute the most innovative, the most personalized, and the most accessible children's hospital in the world? Yes! My job here is done. Thank you very much. So let's start up the Q&A, folks. Any questions?
Dave, while we're waiting, Dave.
Oh, we got one in the back.
Hello, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Yeah, good.
Thanks for asking.
I know you didn't get paid for that, but that was worth at least $15 an hour, like a minimum wage for
Beautiful.
sure. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
My question is, if you didn't spend 8 years at the Stamps, who would it be and why?
So, yeah, in my time with the Stampeders, I was drafted in 2006, and the thing was I was sort of a second-round draft pick, and the BC Lions had 3 opportunities to draft me in the first round, and they didn't. And so the GM at the time, Wally Buono, he's one of the winningest coaches in history. So anytime I see him, he's, John, I don't want to hear that story again. Well, I'm telling it again. You didn't draft me 3 times in the first round. Account for that, please. He doesn't like being put on the spot like that because, as good as a coach as he was, he didn't draft me. So, thank you. I thought you guys were scientists. Aren't scientists supposed to be inquisitive and stuff? Like,
What's the role of the chancellor?
what's the role of the chancellor? So I am the only person in this room empowered to bestow degrees on behalf of the king. It sounds good when you say king and queen, but really what that means is, the external face of the university, helping support your guys' work and providing a level of guidance on the Senate. I'm the Senate's chairperson, as well as the sitting on the board of governors. So between those 3 things, it's a lot of fun. I'm all over the place. Sometimes it's like tonight's Senate meeting or events like this, or sometimes it's introducing the president at our community events, or sort of standing up for our diversity hiring practices on the board. So.
Thank you very much. Wonderful speech. You've been chancellor now for just a few months. Has there been anything that's caught you totally unaware that you hadn't expected, or has it been very predictable? You kind of knew what you're getting into, or did you sometimes go home and say, "Holy man! Like I never thought I'd have something like that happen"?
Well, like I said, I always knew I was going to be chancellor. In reality, though, I was told it's going to be drinking from the fire hose. And I sort of had a picture of how complex these things could be, but I think the best picture of it is easily illustrated. So in a typical organization chart, right, let's put the dean at the top and he has all his faculty, right? But at the university, faculty here, dean here, faculty on top. So like if that introduces sort of the complexity, the dean can't do anything without the faculty, but the faculty can't do anything without the dean. So how do you get stuff done? And that's what a university is. So it's interesting to. So it's been interesting to explore that, see places where there might be some opportunities available, like for some outside thought. And the truth is, I'm coming in sort of in a different kind of place. I don't think I resemble previous chancellors in many ways. So it's an interesting time to sort of have this opportunity when so many organizations are going through change, and this one is seeking to change. And it's a wonderful privilege, and I'm truly honored to have this opportunity with you all. I got time for one more question. It has to be good.
Thank you, Mr. Cornish. That was truly
Oh,
inspiring.
Mr. Chancellor, sorry.
My chancellor. I'm intrigued as to you have U.S. educational experience, and now you're chancellor of a major Canadian university. Dr. Pittman, who asked the question previously, and myself, we serve as the education directors for this wonderful institute. Can you give me some perspective and the community some perspective on what things could we do to make radical transformation among the young people who are in this room and in our community to reach for the success that you're talking about? What are some of the practical strategies?
Well, that's a speech unto itself. But I would say the number one thing is that, like, the second you stop learning from the people around you, be it older or younger, you stop growing. And I think we have a wide range of diversity in this room. I think it's important that we all learn from each other. We all provide mentorship to each other. At work, most of my mentors are older than me, but I do have a mentor that's younger than me. He's been in the business a little bit longer. And, I think it's important that we all sort of have structured mentorship programs where you have a partner that you're learning from. I know that's one of the big objectives of the university is that we found that, I'm in the School of Education, but that doesn't necessarily mean I want a person in education or a teacher to be my mentor. I want to maybe create some educational technology, right? So maybe somebody in business or a software engineering could be a mentor. So we have to open up our eyes that, like, mentorship isn't necessarily vertical, right? Especially for researchers. I'm researching eyes. This person over here is researching spines. Maybe there might be an opportunity to build a connection there. Because I think that interdisciplinary conversation is probably the most important one we can have. So. Yes, payment.
This is a present for you. It's just a small present.
Do you have a photographer? There we go. Here it comes.
Oh, go. We get a picture.
Really appreciate it.
I thank you all so much for having me today. It's been a wonderful pleasure.